Gaza is burning, families huddle in fear, children cry out in the night. The world watches, horrified, as another chapter unfolds in the seemingly endless conflict between Israel and Palestine. This isn't just another news story. This is about real people, real lives torn apart by violence and despair. We need to understand what's happening. We need to know the history, the triggers, the human cost. Most importantly, we need to ask ourselves, what can we do? Silence is not an option when innocent people are suffering. This isn't about taking sides. It's about humanity. It's about recognizing the suffering of all involved and demanding a better way forward. To understand the present, we need to look back. The history of this land is a tapestry woven with threads of hope, despair, and resilience. The roots of this conflict run deep, entangled in a century of broken promises and shattered dreams. The British Mandate period saw the seeds of discord being sown, as conflicting promises were made to both Jews and Arabs. After the Holocaust, the world sought to right a horrific wrong, creating a Jewish state in their ancient homeland. The influx of Jewish immigrants in the 1940s brought hope to many, but also fear and uncertainty to the existing Palestinian population. But this land was already home to Palestinians. Generations had lived, loved, and built their lives here, their roots running deep into the soil of this ancient land. The creation of Israel in 1948 displaced hundreds of thousands, creating a refugee crisis that continues to this day. Families were torn apart, homes were lost, and a sense of belonging was shattered. Over the decades, wars have been fought, lives lost, and peace agreements signed, only to crumble under the weight of mistrust and animosity. Each conflict leaves scars, both physical and emotional, deepening the divide. Each generation inherits the trauma of the past, the anger and fear passed down like a bitter inheritance. Children grow up amidst the echoes of past conflicts, their futures uncertain, their dreams often overshadowed by the struggles of their ancestors. The question is, can this cycle be broken? Amidst the turmoil, there are glimmers of hope. Peace rallies, humanitarian efforts, and the resilience of the human spirit offer a glimpse of a possible future where peace and coexistence might prevail. The current crisis, like many before it, ignited with a spark in a land already saturated with the fuel of resentment and despair. This region, with its long and complex history, has seen countless cycles of violence and attempts at peace, each leaving scars that run deep through its people and its landscape. Tensions over land rights, settlements, and access to holy sites reached a boiling point. The struggle for control and recognition in these areas has been a source of friction for decades, with each side holding deeply rooted beliefs and historical claims that are difficult to reconcile. Militant groups in Gaza fired rockets into Israel, a desperate and reckless act that only served to escalate the violence. These rockets, often crude and indiscriminate, bring fear and destruction to Israeli communities, further entrenching the cycle of retaliation and counter-retaliation. Israel responded with overwhelming force, their bombs raining down on Gaza, a densely populated strip of land where over 2 million Palestinians live trapped in poverty and despair. The airstrikes target militant infrastructure, but inevitably cause widespread damage to civilian areas, leading to tragic loss of life and further suffering. It's a familiar, heartbreaking story. Action, reaction, escalation. Each round of violence leaves more devastation in its wake, making the prospect of peace seem ever more distant. The international community watches, often with a sense of helplessness, as the cycle repeats. And caught in the middle, as always, are innocent civilians, paying the price for a conflict they did not create. Children grow up amidst the rubble, families mourn their lost loved ones, and the hope for a peaceful future seems to slip further away with each passing day. The human cost of this conflict is immeasurable, and the need for a lasting resolution has never been more urgent. The human cost of this conflict is staggering. Hospitals in Gaza, already overwhelmed by the COVID-19 pandemic, are now struggling to cope with the influx of casualties. Families huddle in fear as bombs rain down, their homes reduced to rubble. Food, water, and medical supplies are running desperately low. The streets of Gaza, once bustling with life, are now eerily silent, save for the cries of mourning and the rumble of distant explosions. The world watches in horror, but watching is not enough. We cannot allow this humanitarian catastrophe to continue. We must demand an end to the violence and immediate access for humanitarian aid. Section 5. The world responds, a patchwork of aid and inaction. The international community has responded to the crisis with a patchwork of aid and condemnation. Some countries have pledged financial support for humanitarian relief, while others have called for a ceasefire. But the response, as always, seems inadequate in the face of such overwhelming suffering. Some nations point fingers, assigning blame and fueling the flames of division. Others remain silent, their inaction speaking volumes. The truth is, the world is failing the people of Palestine and Israel. We are failing to address the root causes of this conflict, failing to provide meaningful support, and failing to demand a just and lasting peace. Section 6. A child's plea. Where is the hope? Imagine, if you will, a child in Gaza. She has known nothing but conflict her entire life. Her world is one of fear and uncertainty, punctuated by the sounds of bombs and the cries of grieving mothers. She asks her parents, "When will the fighting stop? When will we have peace?" What do you tell her? What hope can we offer her when the world seems content to watch her people suffer? This is the tragic reality for millions of children in Palestine. Their childhood stolen, their futures uncertain. Their plight is a stain on the conscience of the world. Section 7. What you can do. Turning empathy into action. We cannot afford to be bystanders to this tragedy. We must act. We must raise our voices and demand an end to the violence. We must pressure our leaders to pursue a just and lasting peace. Donate to reputable humanitarian organizations providing aid to those affected by the crisis. Educate yourself and others about the conflict, sharing accurate information and challenging misinformation. Every voice, every action, no matter how small, can make a difference. We cannot afford to remain silent. The time for action is now. Section 8. The future of Palestine. A call for justice. The path to peace in Palestine is long and arduous, paved with the wreckage of broken promises and shattered dreams. For decades, the region has been a focal point of conflict, with countless lives lost and communities torn apart. The scars of war are visible in the ruins of buildings and the faces of those who have endured unimaginable hardships. But we cannot give up hope. We must continue to strive for a future where Israelis and Palestinians can coexist in peace and security, where children on both sides can grow up free from fear. Imagine a world where the laughter of children is not drowned out by the sounds of conflict, where families can share meals without the shadow of violence looming over them. This requires a fundamental shift in perspective, a willingness to listen to the narratives of both sides, and a commitment to finding common ground. It means engaging in meaningful dialogue, where both Israeli and Palestinian leaders come together to discuss their differences and work towards a mutual understanding. Community dialogue sessions can play a crucial role in bridging the gap, fostering empathy and building trust. It demands justice, equality, and an end to the occupation. The call for justice is not just a political statement, it is a moral imperative. Equality must be the cornerstone of any lasting peace, ensuring that both Palestinians and Israelis have the same rights and opportunities. The occupation must end, and with it, the systemic injustices that have perpetuated the cycle of violence. The future of Palestine is uncertain, but one thing is clear: the status quo is unsustainable. The current situation breeds resentment and hopelessness, particularly among the youth who see no future in a divided land. The settlements and divided territories are a constant reminder of the ongoing conflict, and without change, the cycle of violence will continue. We cannot continue down this path of violence and despair. The clashes between protesters and military forces only serve to deepen the wounds and prolong the suffering. The aftermath of violent confrontations leaves communities in ruins and families in mourning. This path leads nowhere but to more pain and loss. We must choose a different way forward, a path that leads to justice, peace, and a shared future for all. This new path requires courage and determination, a collective effort to build bridges instead of walls. It is a call for solidarity, where Israelis and Palestinians come together to create a peace mural, a symbol of their shared commitment to a brighter future. Only through unity and a shared vision can we hope to achieve lasting peace and justice for all. Section 9. A final thought. We cannot turn away. The images coming out of Gaza are difficult to watch, the stories heartbreaking to hear. But we cannot turn away. We cannot allow ourselves to become numb to the suffering. This is a defining moment for humanity. Will we stand by and watch as this conflict continues to claim innocent lives, or will we rise to the challenge and demand a better future for Palestine and Israel? The choice is ours.